Hello and welcome back to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Milwaukee. We're in the Standard Open, and I'm here with a guy who has probably been in the sideboard more than I have, Jeff Hoogland. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty great.
All right, and you are 2-0. We're entering round 3 of the Standard Open coming up, and you're playing a green-black, what you're calling Bestow brunch deck.
Yep, so not quite aggro, not quite lunch, mid-range deck. The role the deck takes kind of depends on the draw that you have.
And I like it because there's a lot of decks like the green-black Dredge or the graveyard-based deck has some of these Bestow creatures you're playing, but you're playing it without all the the filter cards and rooting through your library, just playing a more brunch deck.
Yep. So the inception of this deck was basically I wanted to do two things. One, I wanted to be able to actually play a game of Magic when we're stuck on only 3 or 4 lands. And two, I wanted to have some type of way to capitalize when we eventually flood out in a bunch of our games. And the way we do this is the Bestow creatures are efficient in that they play at 2 slots on our curve. They either play for their normal casting cost, or when we flood, we get to play them. And we're splashing 3 Rakdos's return in our green-black deck, so we basically have 3 giant fireballs that can come off the top at any point.
That was the spicy part I saw when looking through the list. You have a bunch of green-black cards, and then you see a Rakdos return, and you have a bunch of dual lands that you can splash it off of, and then just rip apart people's hand late game, or just kill them.
Yep,
If you
and
beat them down.
the Scrylands are a very powerful effect, so in all the green-black shells I've been playing, I've been splashing a 3rd color just to gain access to the Scries, and then splashing 1 to 2 cards off of that color.
And it's interesting because the curve aspect of these Bestow creatures is important, like just in Limited, where you're looking at stuff like Nyxborn Shieldmate or whatever, that can fill out your curve as well. But in Standard, that application also applies. And Spiteful Return and Herald of
Torment, yep.
Yes.
So their Spiteful Return is very good because even in the matchups where your 1/1 can't attack through their creatures, you just save it and play it as your 4-drop on your slightly bigger creature and then get through. Herald of Torment is insanely powerful because it basically acts as an extra downfall a lot of the time for 5 mana. You basically jump a creature and kill their Elspeth or their Jace or anything like that.
And then, of course, you can put all of your Bestow guys. You got a couple copies of Boon Satyr in here, too. All of these cards can go on Witch Stalker, a 2 of in this deck, but I just saw you use it to great effect against a black-white player.
Yeah, Witch Stalker, and we can play that hexproof game, so we attack from a bunch of very different elements, either aggressive or going all in on one creature. All the Bestow creatures also give you a great angle of attack against the Supreme Verdict deck, so you can continue adding pressure to the table without fear of overextending into their wrath.
Not to mention just suiting up another guy, and then if they have the answer for the first guy, basically a hasty creature right off the bat anyway.
Yep.
Now you've got 4 Scavenging Ooze, 4 Courser of Crufix to gain you a bunch of life back for the Torment.
And our Underworld connections that we have in the main with extra copies on the board.
Yeah. So you have a nice life engine there. 4 Desecration Demon.
He's a fantastic card in these more aggressive style decks where they're having to spend time dealing with our turn 2 and 3 plays instead of committing their own pressure to the table. Not to mention we have 8 really powerful removal spells that can just be picking their creatures off so they can't be tapping the demon down.
Those, of course, Hero's Downfall, a couple of Abrupt Decays, and 1 Ultimate Price.
Yeah, basically the 1 Ultimate Price, I got a few questions on for people that were looking at the list. We just want 5 ways to be able to kill opposing Desecration Demons game 1, so Price is the best extra card to do that.
Okay. And then, of course, your sideboard has a bunch of removal spells, but then as you highlighted to me, Devour Flesh is often good against the burn decks when you're just sacrificing a huge creature of your own.
Yep, and when I was showing people the deck list, a lot of the times I was saying, well, Devour Flesh is your out to Blood Baron, right? It's like, no, Devour Flesh is how we gain 6 life against the burn decks.
Yes. And burn, of course, has been rising in popularity, so that is something these mid-range decks
You have to worry about. You need a good proactive strategy with a way to gain life.
Of course, you've got green-black, a card I think is not seeing enough play right now, Putrefy. Obviously, back from the original Ravnica block, great card. Yep. But is it also a card that can kill Obsidat in this deck?
Correct. So we get to board up to 6 ways to kill an Obsidat. Also, the green-black Dredge deck you mentioned earlier, the can't be regenerated clause is exceedingly relevant against Lotleth Trolls.
Yep.
In fact, some of the more aggressive decks that they don't have Planeswalkers, I board out a couple of downfalls, bring the Putrefies in just because they're easier to cast on the mana base.
Right. And then another Golgari staple, the Golgari Charm.
That card's a house in every format.
Yes. I'm sure, and you sleeve it up in pretty much every format.
Yeah, we're playing it in Legacy tomorrow as well.
Yes. Now, what are the matchups you're looking to play today with this deck?
We have a really good sideboard and even game 1 plan for the blue-white based control decks, which is actually what I beat in round 1. I think those matchups are very good. The burn matchup, as you mentioned, as I told you earlier, is a little bit rough. It's pretty close to 50-50 with our 8 ways to gain life. The black mid-range decks, we just are able to deal with their underworld connections and things like that and get underneath them with some draws, so they're hard to respond to our flexibility.
And of course, how did you come up with this deck again? You told a friend about it, but
So-
you didn't want to play it, and he played it and did well?
A friend and I were sitting at North Carolina last week, and neither of us were very happy with our standard choices. So we were scribbling deck lists down on pieces of paper, and he played something like 70 of these 75 cards in the open trial on Sunday and 4-0'd the event, which convinced he's actually playing it in Phoenix this weekend.
All right. Well, you're off to a great start, 2-0 so far, just a mere 8 rounds away.
Yeah.
So hopefully you finish off strong with this. It looks like a fun list. And of course, stay tuned here in the sideboard and SCG Live all weekend long for more action here in Milwaukee.